Hi, everyone. It is so good to see everyone on this Taking the Lead call. This is our final webinar in the summer series with Alpha Ireland. My name is Amanda O'Shea, and I am the National Coordinator for Alpha Youth, and I work with Head of Development across the nation. We're so excited to talk with you today. This is being recorded, and we will be sharing this with folks that were not able to join us today. We, in our hopes, are helping you to look under the bonnet a bit today with Alpha Ireland. But we just want to say at the top of this call that we really appreciate you taking the lead with Alpha Ireland during this season. This has been a really interesting season for us and for you, and all of us trying to think about where we're going, how do we move forward in a time of a global pandemic, how do we do mission. So today, we just wanted to take you under the bonnet a bit with Alpha Ireland. It is a time when we want to share with you our mission and about why we exist. So if we could go ahead there. So this is to equip and serve the church in its mission to help people discover and develop a relationship with Jesus. This is why Alpha Ireland exists. This is super important to us. This is at the heart of who we are. When someone asks us in our National Alpha office, why do you even do this? What is the point of it? And this dictates our whole strategy as to how we approach what we're doing, how we do it. And I want to talk a little bit about the why. But this is why we exist, is to equip you, to serve you as you figure out mission in your sphere of influence. Because we know that your mission is to help people to discover and develop that relationship with Jesus Christ. During this pandemic, we've had a lot of good feedback, and I'd love to share some of that with you. We've had a few testimonies. It's a difficult time in a pandemic, but it's so refreshing for us when we get to hear back from you as to how what we're doing has helped what you're doing in your place, your region, your locality, your church, your parish. This is from Jane in Dublin. She says, I wanted to let you know that we had our Holy Spirit weekend and it was incredibly successful. We took the advice of including Friday evening so we could show all 3 videos. It really prepared the group for the moment when we called on the Holy Spirit. We also prayed aloud over each participant. Praying aloud was a revelation that really brought the group closer to each other. We had invited the group to join in if they felt a message in their heart. Everyone's heart was open, and the experience went beyond my hopes. Thank you for all you do. That's from Jane in Dublin. Just going to the next one, John. Mary in Cork says, blessed to be a part of the Alpha prayer meetings. So if you don't know about those, we run a prayer meeting every Friday from 1:30 to 2 p.m., just 30 minutes, where we spend time before God together all across the nation. You're welcome to join us. If you aren't getting the link to the prayer meeting, please email us and we will certainly send you that link. Blessed to be a part of the Alpha prayer meetings. I'm getting more used to Zoom each day. Thanks to all your team for these excellent webinars. May the Lord bless you all. It's Mary from Cork. Declan was saying the Alpha webinar last week was fantastic with Nikki Gumbel. What you guys do is revival. So that's Declan in Dublin. Go to the next one. Very good presentation. Good Q&A on how to move Alpha to beta, etc. We have 25 other letters. That's from John in Dublin, and that's really someone thinking about how to move their church after Alpha. And then Emily in Wicklow says, our Holy Spirit Day went so well. We had 20 out of 21 participants join us, and the Holy Spirit moved powerfully in many people's lives. Great job with the webinars. We're totally on board with your vision. So this is hugely encouraging for us, and you can just stay on that slide for a minute, John, because as we do all of what we're doing through the pandemic, having this kind of response and success didn't come without a cost, just like you and your churches. there's actually been a huge cost to us as well, just with the loss of funds that's happened across the board for businesses that do fund us and churches that fund us. So of course that's going to trickle down to us as we've had a loss of funds. We've had to reduce our regional staff, and it's caused us to respond and to reimagine and to re-innovate. I actually had to look up that word because when I said it, I was like, is that actually a word? Is that something you can say? Because I know innovate is to start something new. And when I actually looked it up, it's interesting how many companies actually call themselves re-innovate. I had no idea. You can Google that yourself. But what I mean by that is that we have been innovating. We're always innovating. Back and re-innovate what you've been innovating is another task altogether. And it's just in a time when you're thinking about your challenges that you also think about your opportunities, to not get lost in that idea of, yes, there are a lot of challenges. Yes, there are a lot of loss of funds. We've had to lose favored and amazing team members. But in that, how do we respond to this challenge? How do we reimagine what we're doing and how we're doing it with a much smaller team? We have a much smaller team right now working across the nation. And so how do we re-innovate and be creative in a time of such loss? And I think that's where all of us are. I think all of us have had to think about how we do that. And what I want to encourage you today is that we are with you. And in that, I'm hoping these testimonies will help encourage you as well, because you are a part of that. You are a partaker of the mission and Alpha in Ireland. And everything that we do with you, with the church. And so you get to rejoice with us as God is doing amazing things across the nation, even in the midst of this time. And we are so encouraged that even in a time that seems difficult, that God is at work, that the Holy Spirit is alive in people's hearts and minds, and that mission is alive. And so we've had to readjust by creating these webinars, and we've had to really thank you for that, Michael. I'm actually going to take a look. Re-innovate, constant change is here to stay. Yes, that's right. I agree. And I think it's a time for us just to think about where we are and not get lost in the challenge that we're facing, and to think about, in this pandemic, what are the opportunities before me to re-innovate in the way that I'm working on mission. So that's what we want to talk with you about today. You know, as us as the national office, just being very vulnerable, we've had to take an overview of the nation, and we look now to the church being the regional influencers. And we want to come alongside you and work in partnership, which is stronger than a collaboration. It's more than that. And we want to partner with you. So in our values, John, we are passionate about unity. We are so passionate about working together ecumenically, and maybe you've never considered this in your region. If you're a Catholic church, have you thought about reaching out and running an Alpha with the local Presbyterian church down the road, or the local Anglican church down the road, or vice versa? Have you reached your hand out in your region to a local church that maybe isn't as strong or has as much influence as you, but would really love to have that connection, that friendship, that community? We're seeing churches come together across Ireland. And actually, when I talk to nations, and John will echo this, across the world, we're one of the leaders at working ecumenically. We really are. There are not, and we do it so well. So if you're not doing it, I really encourage you. Ireland is actually really good at this. I think we have a real heart to work together and to really set the pace about how this can happen. So we are passionate about unity. We are by the church, for the church, and through the church. John is going to be following up my conversation right now, and he's going to dive into this a bit more. So I'm not going to go into it very much, because John is going to talk about the how, and he has lots of good things to say. I'm really excited for you to hear. but we are by the church, for the church, and through the church. So into the next one, we believe that the church deserves the best. So everything that we offer, we hope that it is quality. We want to give you an excellent resource. We want to give you excellent videos, anything with marketing, anything you're doing to promote what you're doing. We want to help it be the best that it can be. So everything that we offer is the last one for free, because we believe in giving it all away. So we know that we encourage you as a church to run your Alpha for free, not to charge. And that is an Alpha value, to give it all away. And then we endeavor in everything we're giving you to give it all away. We believe God will take care of the rest, and he will help us fund everything that we need to do. But we're going to actually take you a step further today in that giving it all away value. And John is going to dive into that, about how you can give it all away and what that might mean. So I'm actually going to hand it over to John now and let him talk to you about how.
Cool. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone coming here, and thanks a million for that, Amanda. That gives a really good overview. And I think sometimes it's important for us to get a sense as to exactly like why it is what we're doing. We've had some really incredible feedback. That's just a little bit of the feedback that we've had, but a lot of the feedback that we've had over this summer has been really impressive, and it's really helped us to kind of keep going in amongst everything that's been happening. So, as Amanda said, we really want to work with you and the churches, and we really want to find ways that we will be able to, as Amanda says, partner with you, and not just kind of, feed you up, but it really is a partnership, and that's what we're going to hopefully look at. And so this idea of giving it all away is within that. And as Amanda said, the key kind of part of that is our mission, which is to equip and serve the church. And that's what we really want to do, is to equip you and to serve you. And that is the whole reason that we exist. It's not about trying to up the numbers or anything like that. The whole thing is to try and equip and to serve you. And so this is the real value that we want to look at as well. The idea of the by, for, and through, I think, is important. It's not about the number of alphas that we run. It's about who runs them. And it has to be by the church. And that's a really key and important point. It's not just about trying to get people out there to up the numbers to do it, because actually it has to be by the church. And that's why we really want to equip and to serve you and to walk alongside you and help you to do that. The ultimate aim of a well-run Alpha is to energize people for a lifelong relationship with the Lord. And so the best place for them to experience that is in the church. And so therefore the main developer of the church, of Alpha, is the church. And so it is through the church that we work. It's by, for, and through. We've done a few different things over the past while, and this kind of taking the lead format is something that we've really appreciated the response that people have had. And there are some people who have been kind of working away on Alpha for a long time. Just to say, as we're going through this, if there's anything in particular that you wanted to kind of throw your hand up, please do feel free to do so. Amanda will feel free to interject and just let me know as it is. So we just want to make sure that you're kind of following where we are, so you can throw your question up there in the group chat, or you can maybe put your hand up, and Amanda might get my attention to do that, because when I'm in the flow I'm going. But we'd love for you to be able to ask any questions that you would like. But the Taking the Lead format really is something that we wanted to try and work with a group of churches who are hungry for innovation in this time, who are hungry to try, and not just innovation for innovation's sake, but innovation to try to bring the gospel, even during the time of a pandemic, a time when people really needed help, a time when everything was about lockdown and closing in. And we wanted to try and find a way that we would be able to continue to bring the gospel message to the nation. And so we thought of the idea of taking the lead. And that is really all of you people who have been with us over the last number of weeks and months. And perhaps you've been running Alpha in person for a number of years, or perhaps you've only started to really look at it because of the online way, or perhaps you're just interested in how this kind of idea of innovation is taking place and what you might be able to do it. There's a key kind of role in what we try to do as we equip and to serve the church. With you as taking the lead, those innovators, we try to envision you. And so that's where the idea of the AIC was. So we had our conference last year. in Portlaoise in Abbeyleix, and we just outside Portlaoise in Abbeyleix, and we had Ron Huntley over, who was really grabbed our attention, and there's a huge positive feedback from that. So it really was incredible to be able to just set the vision for what's possible in Ireland. And that's what we tried to do with our Explore series as well, which was recently our fortnightly series. We had Ron again was one of the people, Bishop Fonzie Cullinan from Waterford and Lismore, with Nicky Gumbel as well, and then Bishop Pat Story last week for the Bishop of Meath and Kildare, really trying to envision and to really cast an idea as to explore why Alpha and why Alpha Online, and how that can help the church in its mission of the Great Commission of going out and bringing people into a relationship with Christ. And so that's really kind of an important thing of what we do. But the second thing that we do then as well is to find ways of supporting and training. And that was when we started back just after, I think it was Easter Monday, when we did our first webinar, which seems a long time ago now, back when we had sunshine in the glory days. But we had our webinars that we were doing then. We also then went into our coaching, our one-to-one coaching session, which were done on Thursday afternoons and now on Thursday mornings. And these have really kind of been the how-to really try and help people who had an idea of the why, and then really wanted to see how they might be able to make this possible. So the webinars are really kind of important for that, and the coaching as well. You can watch back all of our webinars if there's stuff that you're interested in trying to do. Everything is available. We give it all away for free. It's on our website. You can feel free to watch it back, to share it with people who you think might be interested, or if you feel that there's something in there that needs to kind of be developed a little bit more, that's what the coaching is there for. And we'd be happy, again, free one-to-one coaching, 45 minutes on a Thursday morning, which will allow us all to sit and have a conversation and really break things open. And then this Taking the Lead webinar series is really trying to break into the how to build a culture of invitation, and how to build a culture of discipleship. And in specific ways, we started the first one back with Edward Bart Short, our marketing guy, just about how to get the word out and how to invite people. And we tried to kind of build on from there. And then obviously in the past, how we do it was through regional training. And obviously we'll be looking at doing those kind of in-person trainings, hopefully as things go on as well. But how we do that is going to change as we re-innovate, and constant change. Michael is indeed here to stay. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at as to how we do. And then the last thing that we're kind of doing with the Taking the Lead is to cast this idea of a culture, to look at the suite of resources that we have. And again, it's not about just trying to hit numbers or to try and get more people running more courses, but it's what can these resources do to help you as a church to be able to reach out to people. So Alpha works incredibly well for reaching out to people, forming a community, bringing the good news to them in an informal way, helping them to kind of wrestle with the big questions in life and what that might mean and how that might help them on their faith journey. And it also gives people who perhaps are a little bit further along in their faith journey an opportunity to be disciples, an opportunity to lead and to walk alongside someone in a conversation over a number of weeks, to serve, to really kind of bring their faith out from being this kind of idea into a practical reality. And what we found is that anybody who in fact is able to step out and who is able to serve on an Alpha really learns an awful lot about themselves, and they find their own faith being deepened as well through that. So we think that there's an opportunity there with the Alpha. For example, then we have the Alpha Youth. So there's an opportunity to reach out to the young people in your parish, or in your community, or whether it's a group of adults maybe who've experienced Alpha in the church and then decide that they see the local secondary school that's there, and they'd love to be able to reach out to the young people who are there and to bring them the good news, or to the confirmation candidates perhaps. There's so many different ideas and ways that you might be able to use the Alpha Youth systems. And then we also have the parenting courses, which are a really good way of serving and encouraging the parents, the young families who are in your church, the ones who I think especially after this time have perhaps struggled over the past number of months, because I know myself, I've got a 3-year-old in the house, and it's really difficult when for a number of weeks there's nowhere that you can go, and you're just kind of it's distilled into pressure. And the idea of the parenting course is very practical guides to try to help people on that way, whether that's with children from 0 to 10, or the ones for teenagers from 11 to 18. And there's trying to use those resources. And then finally, there's the marriage course and the pre-marriage course, which are aimed at supporting couples and strengthening relationships and strengthening marriages and families, which are the bedrock of our society. So that's the idea. We really want to try and help to create that culture of discipleship and of engagement and of encouragement, where the church is really looking out for society, where the church is really trying to transform society, not by telling them what to do, but by bringing them on an invitation to experience something that could really help them. And then, as we said, we've really been kind of mining over the past number of weeks in the Taking the Lead series, this culture of invitation, of having a hospitable culture where you invite people in, come and see. The Lord said it himself, and it's one of the things that worked incredibly well, was inviting people in, saying, have a look at this, see what you think. You're welcome here, no matter where you are from or what's happening. You are welcome here, and we want to walk with you. And then obviously the flip side of that culture of invitation is that the culture of invitation can't happen without a culture of discipleship, whereby people will stand up, take ownership of their faith, and engage with this in a way that the church will be alive, and the church will speak strongly to the culture, to the wider society, and it will encourage people to go on a lifelong path of discipleship, to walk with the Lord, to use their time, their talent, and the treasure to be put at the servants of the Lord. So that's the kind of overall view of the Taking the Lead. And what we're going to try and do now, hopefully we're all kind of on board with that. If anybody has any questions, please do feel free to jump in.
There's a question, John, I got privately from Denise. I'll pause you for a quick second. It's a very practical. She has several practical questions. We'll answer one of them right now, I think, just around, she's wondering, would you limit the number of participants that we run Alpha for online? And she has 15 guests who started Alpha. Should she extend this? Interesting choice of words there, Denise, because we're going to be talking about how you extend. You mightn't have meant it in the same spirit in which we do, but should we extend this, and what is the best way? So I think one of the answers there is they have seen over in England and in other countries that you can have a huge amount online. I think it's more to do with how many leaders. And it's the same in any Alpha, whether you run it in person or whether you run it online. You just want to have enough small group leaders that you can break it down into small groups and have effective conversation of no more than 8 people maybe in a small group breakout room. You want to stick more to the 6 to 8 numbers. We know that in person, we've said you could probably go to 8 to 12 for your small group, but online we kind of recommend that 6 to 8. And do you mean extend wise, Denise? Are you able to unmute Denise for a second, John? Do you mean extend it by time wise, or do you mean continue it online? I'm trying to understand what you mean there by extend.
What I mean is we perhaps will have 15 guests who already started Alpha, 23 started, but they won't all continue online.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, by extend, I mean, should we now look online for other people to join that group? I mean, extend the invitation out
to other people.
Just work with the group that we have. That's what I mean.
Are you going to start the Alpha from the beginning or from where you left off?
Well, we only had one session, and Frances was telling me somebody already asked her, would we start it from the beginning again? I have no problem with that. Of course we will.
Okay. I would extend it out then. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go ahead and extend it out to others in your audience. And I'm going to come back to you, Denise, a little bit later on the call for your other technical questions, but they're all really good questions. I'm just going to pause them for a minute. Is that all right? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Denise. We really appreciate that for jumping in. So please do feel free to jump in, guys, if you have any questions like that. And Amanda will bring them to my attention as we go. But yeah, Denise, I think the key there is to really just kind of that idea of invitation and of bringing it out. And I think the only limit really to how many people you can work with online is how many leaders that you have. And I know from having been on the call with you that you've got plenty of brilliant people on the team then there. But it's brilliant. So keep up the excellent work. So we're just going to tap on here with what we're doing. So the next phase we've got in is So this is kind of how it works with people who are experiencing Alpha. These are you, the churches, as you are kind of going about doing it. We break them down into kind of three main areas so that we have an understanding as to how we're better able to support you and to serve you. And I think that when you guys kind of see that, will help us to kind of engage in that, and you can kind of find out ways that we might be better able to support you, and you might be able to help support us in the work that we're doing as we reach out to other people. So in the experience phase, when someone's ready to kind of run an Alpha, they begin in an incubate phase, and this is where we will partner with you. Alpha Ireland partners with the church to help train and equip your team to deliver the Alpha. And I think that's a really key issue, is that it's never just a case of, brilliant, you've signed us up, there's a resource, see you later, off you go, guys. I think what our kind of desire is to really partner with you right from the very beginning of the phase, to be better able to see it. And hopefully through the webinars that we've done in the online world, you will be able to kind of get a glimpse of that. But we are always ready for how we can kind of move forward with you. And then generally what we find is that when someone has kind of incubated and run an Alpha a couple of times, perhaps, they're going to want to try and help it to become a bit more part of the culture in the church. And this is where we kind of see people who've really captured the vision for Alpha, where it's not just kind of a course that's run once a year, but it's something that wants to become a better part of the church itself and how it can be run. And I know there's so many of you here who are doing that work, and it's wonderful to hear how that's working. And so what you get from us in that way, and when the partnership develops in that sense, we're going to give ongoing support to develop Alpha, and perhaps look at the other resources as well. And as I said before, when I was introducing the other resources, it's not just that we want you to be kind of doing all these things, but we know that there are certain ways of reaching out to people in your church, and people kind of have real desire to reach out to particular groups of people. Sometimes it's young people, sometimes it's young families or whatever, and we want to try and find good ways of being able to help you to do that. And
John, I'm just going to interrupt you right there, just to say that those two, the incubate and implement, actually answers Denise's second question, which is the support that Alpha will be providing churches. Will we still be supporting with details on how to register, send out weekly links? Yes, is the short answer to that, Denise, but just around what John just said there around the incubate and implement and under increase, we are going to provide ongoing support to churches. That's not going away. Some of what we have to do will happen online, and we're going to continue to develop new and more resources to equip the church that people can access and just play for themselves on our website. So be on the lookout for that. But you can still get direct access to us for coaching on certain things, whether it's technical or otherwise. We're still available. So I just wanted to highlight those two things you just said, John, because that answers Denise's question. Keep going.
Yeah. I think there's perhaps a little bit of, when I sent out the email on Monday morning saying that this is the final one for the summer, people might have been thinking, oh, right, okay, there you are, riding off in the sunset, leaving us all here with a bunch of webinars. That's not the case at all. We are going to be working with you. Just we need kind of a little bit of time to kind of regrasp as to where we're going, but we're always going to be around, and that's the idea, is that we're always open to try and support and help in any way that we can. I see Mary's question there, and we will pause for a chance to kind of look at that in a few minutes, if that's okay. And then the idea is perhaps when someone's looking to increase, and that's kind of increasing the number of Alphas they might be running, but they really have this desire to develop that intentional culture of invitation and discipleship that we've been talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully present yet in the church, but that there's an awareness that you really want to try and make that happen. And, we're aware that internationally, when we get kind of different speakers in, or when Divine Renovation perhaps is speaking about something, or Nikki Gumbel is on, it can be a little bit overawing when you kind of hear about all this stuff that's happening in these huge churches with huge numbers of people and welcoming or hospitality or whatever. What we want to try and do is to find a way of really embedding that into the Irish culture and into the Irish way. And we are Alpha Ireland, and our job is to try here and to serve you as the church, and to find out ways that we can make this happen within the Irish context, and to find a way that we might be able to work with you to make this happen. We would love to see an Irish church do all these things and to make it happen, and that's what we would love to be able to work with you in doing. We will be partnering with you then, and you will kind of, at that stage, we're going to be partnering with you right from the very beginning. But I suppose in the increase phase, it's almost a case where you guys are saying, okay, well, we'll actually want to partner back with you and maybe see what we might be able to give to each other. And in this sense, you might be kind of then open to kind of we will coach you, but you might then also be open to kind of coaching others and helping them to kind of see what that might look like, and offering ongoing support as well. So that's when people are experiencing it, that's where it is. And you see from this desire in the increase section, this is really where it goes from maybe knowing about something to really kind of wanting to follow it. And the come and see becomes, okay, let's come and do, let's try and do this and make this happen. So the next phase then is the extend phase. And this is where we really see churches who have this desire to make not just Alpha something that happens during the midweek, but this is something that happens at the weekend as well. And it becomes absolutely the center point of everything that they do. And this is where they look at best practice of running Alpha, of trying to make it the kind of best that they can do in their own kind of individual ways. And it's a come and see then for other people. It's inviting people along and saying, look, this is what we're doing. We would love for you to kind of come along and see it. And actually, most of the time, you don't have to extend that invitation, because when something is going well, people will notice. And when something is kind of that being that light on the hill, people can't help but be drawn to it. And, we really want to try and encourage and help people to get to that point. And whatever we can do, we will be delighted to. So this is what we want to try and encourage people to get to know that it's possible, and that we'd love to get to this point where it's a best practice Irish church, fully alive on mission, that cannot help but be a light on a hill. And I think we can all get behind the desire for that, and hopefully we'll be able to practically get to that point too. And then finally, we will, hopefully get to the point of having intentional partnership, where we work together again, where, we will be equipping the wider church through the training, through the coaching, and through the development of the culture, where we can encourage others and show others that it's possible. So that might be a case where we, start running trainings together in our churches, and we'll kind of support you for the first time. And then as you move along, you'll feel comfortable, and confident in running another one kind of all on your own. Because, we have the theory, we have the kind of ideas as to how to do this, but the reality is that you guys are in the church, and you are the ones who are running it in your parishes and in your churches. And we need you guys to be able to show us how we can do that in a real practical sense. And so that's where we really would love to be able to have a sense of an intentional partnership with it too. That's a lovely drink of water. We are going to move on to something else now. And I think these are kind of aspirational things. And these are things that we would try to kind of show, and we're wary that this is might feel a little bit theoretical. But actually what we're hoping that you get a sense of is that there is a practical sense of this, that there is a real lived out reality version of this. And it looks like this, is that when, hold on a second, so I'll go a little bit haywire. Now, this is what it looks like, and I realize that there's a lot of information here, but if you just stay with me, this is your church, which is the church, the light on the hill that we were just speaking about there, the one who has kind of embedded these and has been working alongside us as we move forward. And then Church X is the parish or the church next door, or someone in your diocese, or someone kind of local to you who's hungry for more, who wants to try to see how to be on mission, how to change their culture, who maybe is where you guys were at a couple of years ago, or where you guys are at now, aspirational, who want to kind of see what's possible. And so when your church has gotten to the point, and we'll work together as we do it, heads will be turned and people will want, because you cannot help but want to move towards the light. And so on the left-hand side there, you see informed. And so when Church X wants to be informed, they see your church is on mission, and they want, they've seen how your culture has changed or is changing, and wants to kind of figure out a way to make that happen in their own. And so that's when they want to become informed about what you're doing. And then the next stage of that is that they will become interested, because you can't help but be inspired by that. And so their interest, they maybe want to come along and see it in action. And so maybe they would attend an Alpha or a Sunday service or a Mass or whatever it is, to try to see and glimpse what it looks like in the real practical lived out nature, because they've seen that it's making a difference in people's lives. They've heard about it, and they want to see what it looks like. And then finally, the final stage for them is to be in an investigate phase. And they want to learn how you run Alpha, how you've changed your church culture, and how you engage in mission. And so from there, that's what we want. We don't want Alpha to be at the center of this. We don't want people coming to us to ask how they can do it. We want them to look at your church and to see what it looks like in a lived out reality. And we want to partner with you so that you will be at a point of being able to put this out there as well. So that will hopefully give an overview and a sense of where we are at. Essentially, in Alpha Ireland, we want to give it all away. And the question is, will you join us on that? So I'm aware that we have a bunch of minutes left and we can have a few chat. I know there's a few questions that are specifically around technical things and we can look at that too. But I just wanted to say that it's been an absolute pleasure for me and for us as a team to be working with you over the past number of weeks and months. And it's been really inspiring. You know, I've been talking to people who themselves are self-confessed technophobes who are, you know, now getting to the point over, you know, engaging in training and that kind of thing because their heart is so big. They want to be able to run an Alpha online, or they want to try and make it happen. And there's nothing more inspiring for us than to see a church who is willing to try and get out there and to try and give it away and to be fed and filled up and sent out. And that's really where we want to be. So I want to thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to kind of having some questions now. Thank you.
So we'll start with Mary. She's asking, could you have the small groups physically meeting in a group, say in a house, keeping all the HSC medical guidelines, or is it best to keep everything online for the present? I think you have to work with your church leaders and make that decision. So different churches are taking different approaches right now because churches opened up. You know, there is the possibility of a small group physically meeting now, either in your church or in your home. That is legal, keeping all the HSC and medical guidelines in place, absolutely. So you could do it in a house or you could do it in your church if your church is allowing for that. But whether it's best to keep everything online, if the group has already been meeting online, one thing that I know, there's an Alpha Youth running online right now with 40 to 50 teenagers every Friday night at the moment. And it's 3 different churches running it together with 3 different denominational backgrounds, which is fabulous. And they are going to, 2 of the churches are going to come together in person for the Holy Spirit Day. We've been running it online, but we're actually going to come together. One of them can't just because they're so far away. So it's 2 Dublin churches that's been meeting with a Limerick church online. And the church in Limerick is going to run their Holy Spirit Day in Limerick with their own group, and it'll be their first time seeing their young people after this, during this pandemic. They haven't actually physically, they've only been online. So it's going to be quite a celebration for them and for the young people that'll get together, but that'll also help keep all the numbers low, so that even though we have a ceiling, you know, with leaders and everybody, you want to keep that number low and keep the risk of infection low, obviously, or any risk. So that was a decision that the ones working with the youth along with their church leaders came to, and I think it's a wise one. So I think it's up to yourselves if you want to bring just even that one piece of the Holy Spirit together in person, but you can certainly keep it online. That's going to be certainly a call for yourself and your church leaders to make the call. Alpha, go ahead, John.
Sorry, yeah, I was just to echo that that's what's happening. You know, I'm engaged in an Alpha for kind of young adults as well. So they're over 18 and that's being run online. And there is a hunger for people to meet in person, but there's also kind of a sense of knowing that actually just trying to find the right time for it. And so we're coming up on the Holy Spirit Day. And I think the Holy Spirit kind of day and event is one of those that can be a moment where you can meet together, or indeed the final week is a really nice time to kind of have everyone together in a meal, a chance to kind of get together and to sit, to celebrate everything that you've managed to do. And a chance of meeting in person might be a little bit different and exciting, and a chance to do that. And then, you know, the idea then is what happens next. And from there, you can decide maybe if online or in person as well. But I would agree with Amanda that, you know, it's just about trying to figure out what you can safely do to make sure what works best for you and obviously for your own church. But that there are loads of different ways of doing it. And I think what has been incredible to hear the stories of is that there's so many alphas online that are happening that are just uniting people from all over the country. It's just unbelievable. It's not just, you know, people from down the road. And it is there are neighbors who are kind of meeting or whatever, but it is an opportunity for people across the country to come into a conversation at the time when they're ready to do it. And I think that's one of the joyful things of being able to do it online.
Yeah, there's 3 different Catholic parishes that's going to start a young adults Alpha online at the beginning of August, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the passion behind, and we've had several meetings as teams to discuss what is the best way forward. And that particular group of 3 parishes are actually running the Alpha intentionally to think about equipping and discipling those young adults into running an Alpha youth for teenagers within that region, and in hope to also run it in the local secondary schools. So there's an intentionality that this group is taking in their approach to running Alpha, which I love, because they're running it as a way of discipling young leaders, as a way of looking to reach out and reach young people in their region. What I'd love to ask is if there is anyone that would like to specifically ask about this idea of extending, of being an extend church. We're happy to go back to a particular slide that you're like, wait a minute, that I just need to ask a question about that. I'm not really sure what you were talking about, or we know that we've given you a lot of information today to think about. We know that it's for most a new idea of becoming an extend church. And if you have a question around that, we would love to answer that. So is there any questions around that particular topic from anyone? Just give it a minute. And you can put a hand up or you can type it in. If there's not at the moment, oh, yep, Denise, do you want to go for it? Just go ahead and unmute
Yes,
you.
I think, as John said earlier, it very much depends on the size of your team. I'm looking at our team now, and at a push, we could maybe have 5 hosts. Maybe we planned maybe 3 hosts. 5, 8, 40 would be the limit. But if you only had 4 hosts and you were trying to do the sessions correctly, you could only have 32. So it very much depends on who you have to lead and host those small teams. So that's all I have to say. It might be fine to say extend and extend, but we are limited to doing it properly.
Yeah.
Look at the team. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's one of the things that we're wary of as well, Denise, is, we had a conversation with a couple of people on Monday who have been running Alpha Online up to this point. And, we were just very wary that the information that we kind of gave out at the very beginning was we were just aware that we can't give best practice information. We could only give good practice. And the good practice ideas and notions that we were giving was coming from different people across the world who had already run it. And, so we were kind of talking about 8 in a group and that kind of stuff. And then one of the people was saying that they had, because they had kind of 12 to 15 people in their Alpha on any given evening, they decided that rather than having, different breakout groups, they just kind of have 12 in the main group, 12 to 15. And they found that the conversation flowed quite well, and it worked perfectly fine. And then there was other people who had broken into small groups and said that the conversation was kind of, wasn't really flowing as much as it might have been doing. So I think all that we could say is that the numbers and the ideas that we give, it absolutely is important. You're right. It is about the team that you have there. And especially if it's your first one, to just kind of tread carefully and do only what you feel comfortable in being able to do. But we're aware that our ideas and our advice for moving forward with Alpha Online will probably change in the coming kind of weeks and months ahead. Even the major kind of feedback that we got was just on the timing frame. So we were saying, an hour was probably enough for people online, but everyone's coming back saying it just doesn't feel like enough time to be able to kind of sit and to have chats, which in one way is a perfectly exciting thing to have happen, because it means that people are engaging and there's a chance to kind of talk through it. So I agree with you, Denise, but just to be kind of cognizant that as we move forward and the advice that we give probably will change as we kind of move forward to it as well.
Thank you.
And I want to just mention with Denise there, and I'm going to come to you, Patty, next, that with this extend idea, we're also wanting people to think about something that St. Benildus does really well, which is help other parishes when they just need some help answering questions. So that's what we're hoping that some of you on the call and others that are listening to this recording would be willing to do is, will you be a church? Will you join us? That, let's say, a church down the road from St. Benildus has some questions about Alpha. They would love to go and watch the one that St. Benildus is doing, whether that's online or in person. And Denise is a great example of someone that has done that in her region. And for her parish, she has extended by helping answer questions on the phone for someone that's interested. How did you do this? How did you do that? And being that kind of extend type of church for someone. So that's another way of extending your experience, is helping another parish think through, or another church in your region, how to run Alpha and how you've done it, and being a safe place for another church to come and watch what you do, so that they can get a better picture of how to do it and how it works. And who better than the people running it to answer some practical questions. So thank you for Denise for doing that. Patty, I want to come to you. What is your question?
I'm muted. Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Hi all. Well done for all your hard work, everybody on team.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just unclear about how this partnership, of how you think the next steps will be for a parish moving towards a culture of invite. Like on the Lock, we reopened our church on Monday, our Catholic church in Johnstown on Monday, and we made sure to have welcome badges up on our lapels there as you're meeting people for the first time. But so I wonder if you could speak a little more on how you think you can help a parish like us.
Yeah, I think that's
to move. Yeah, and you know us a bit, John.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, Paddy, because we're really aware that as well. We're in the early stages now. And everything that we were doing up to this point everything was online because there was no other option. And we're now aware that the time that we're coming into is going to be a hybrid time. And I think there's a desire for some people to kind of go to run the traditional Alpha in the traditional way, but having to be done in a socially distant way. So we're aware
and that's borne out by experience. Just this morning we had 40 something like 45 at Mass, but the attendance on the webcam actually went up. Which is interesting. So
yeah, and I think that is an interesting. This is I genuinely believe we're moving into a time of a real hybrid way of doing it, as we're trying to figure out what the right way to do is. I don't think that people are ready. There might be some people who aren't ready to take the chance to kind of meet in person. They just want to keep kind of going, and hopefully we'll get to the point where things will be easier and open. But the culture of invitation will need to look different. As the idea of what the culture of the new church in the physical space looks like. And so what we're saying is that as this kind of develops in real time, and as we speak to more churches, we'll have a better sense as to how it's possible to do it. Now, obviously, on the physical side of it, it looks more difficult to be welcoming if you're in full PPE. But actually, it's not just about the physical appearances and what you do. It's about an entire culture and how people are engaging with it. And so maybe that's about how we can engage still online and offering things online, but it doesn't just all have to be in the physical space. And one of the things that Amanda and I were saying is that I actually think we are going to see more churches who start to do more things during the week. I think that especially in a Catholic context, we've probably kind of overly relied on the Sunday experience as the single expression of church. Whereas it feels like perhaps in this time, we will be moving out towards, maybe small groups who are meeting during the week as well, because, it's not possible for
meeting. Do you mean physically or online?
I think both. And I think the reality is that, for example, in my own parish here, they've opened up the doors again, but because of the sheer numbers, they're encouraging people who can make Mass during the week to go during the week rather than just on Sunday. And so just how, yeah, exactly. And so I think the reality is that in a beautiful way, I think the Lord is using this, that suddenly it goes from just being once a week Catholics, or Christians, to becoming this is everything that we do and how we live out our faith on a daily basis. And actually, I think that's a really good thing, but I think it's going to take a little bit of tweaking. And so in answer to your question, a very, very blunt answer to your question is we would sit down with you and we'd have conversations and see how we'd be able to help you, because we need to hear about what your lived practical reality is before we can. There's no point just throwing theory at something. It's about trying to figure out how we could kind of better do that, I think.
Thank you, John. From my lived practical reality, I have to cut off because we had a prayer appointment at 2:00.
Well, God bless you. Thanks,
Thank
Paddy.
you so much
Cheers.
for joining us,
Bye, all.
Patty. And we'll be finishing up, but there was another hand raised. Was it Mary? You can unmute yourself, I think. There you go. There you go. You're on, Mary.
Just when you, I think this might be relevant, Amanda, but if it's not, forgive me.
Okay.
But we were doing Life in the Spirit here on the north side in various parishes.
Yes.
We got a bit stuck at times and we approached Alpha for help.
Yes.
And we actually got help from Amanda. She came and taught us, well, helped us to look at the way we did small groups.
Yes.
Now, that was a massive help to us. But the second thing that I noticed with it was it got us talking about Alpha as well as Life in the Spirit.
Yes.
And so, in a sense, it's not that we're trying to promote one thing above another. We're all the time trying to build bridges with people to bring them into the faith, to
Yes.
get wherever they are. Whether
Yes.
that's what I love about Alpha being so cross-denominational and interdenominational. But no, it was very helpful, not even just from the training point of view, but even to get the word. People said, "Oh, what's Alpha?" And then people started going online, looking even at the resources online, which actually some of them helped us doing our Life in the Spirit. So
Amazing.
that was amazing, yeah, because in actual fact now that 2 or 3 of those parishes are actually going to do Alpha.
Brilliant.
There was something else come up there when you were talking to Paddy. I can't remember. Oh, the hybrid, what John was saying about hybrid church.
Yes.
And that is the new. I was struck when Nicky Gumbel said that, with this culture of invitation, he said there are some people in the world who are quicker to go online than to walk into a group or a church.
Yes.
So the online will work hand in hand, I think, with the real meeting of people, if you like,
Yes.
because it will help people to. It's a good way that people can check out what's all this about, and
Yes.
is it any use or is it any good? I think it's a kind of a safe place.
It's a safe space, and it brings people
Yeah.
together that can't normally, because there are whole pockets of people that we're hearing from, whether they might have a disability or they might be of an older age bracket, that just can't get into churches. And they have thanked us for getting this resource online and trying to equip churches to serve that part of our community. And that's just the beginning, really. If we can begin to really serve our communities in this way, who can't actually get out and get into our churches physically, what an amazing gift, and what an amazing way of being the church and taking care of the people that Jesus has asked us to take care of on a regular basis. Another really good idea there is our own church. I go to St. Catherine's Church of Ireland, and they have encouraged us to get with our small groups and watch together in a home now, the church that's being presented online, and then have a meal together and be with one another. So there's all kinds of ways of gathering and doing church right now. So we are at the end of our time. Is that okay, Mary? I'm going to finish there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to finish. John, are there any final words that you have that you do want to make sure that we finish with?
No, that was absolutely brilliant. I really appreciate it, and thanks so much for everybody engaging it in the spirit in which it was meant. So thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking the lead. This is just the end of our summer series. We are not going away. We're just needing a break ourselves to take a breath and rest for a few weeks. You will see us again very soon. We want to encourage you to please go on our website and access all the resources that are there. We've built up in April, we literally did 3 webinars a week, and then in May and June and July, we've had one weekly. So go and check out our catalog of webinars. There's a host of things that will hopefully support you and bring about mission in your area. If you're not already doing it, if you're engaging in it, we're hoping that it will serve you and what you are doing. And we are available by email. Our email addresses are in the chat there, johnquinn.quinn@alphaireland.org or amanda.o'shea@alphaireland. They're on the website as well. You can get a hold of us. Please do get in touch. And we really, really just want to say these testimonies are shared by you because you have been taking the lead. So we thank you for that. And thank you for who you are. You're the ones on the ground making the difference. We are just trying to resource you and what you're doing. So thank you.
Amen. That's great. Thanks, guys.